Okay, so we are live, Dylan, and I think people are still joining in. We will wait for a couple of minutes before we get started, since there's a lag between what we say and what we get from the audience. So I always love to wait.
Yeah, no problem. I know that it takes a little while for people to get notified and to join and stuff like this, but I'm super excited to be doing this with you actually. So thank you for inviting me here.
Thank you for joining in, and I've been wanting to do this sort of a session, which delves a little bit more into signals or buyer intent and all those bigger words that people use these days. So a little bit of nitty gritties into it, and as a salesperson, I know the things that you mentioned on your post, right? Ebook download, reach out.
Yeah.
Webinar registration, reach out. It's quite a task for a SDR. So great to have you on. If everybody can hear us and listen to us, see us, please let us know on the comments so that I can get started. Okay, so Kajal has said that she's excited, so I would like to interpret it as I am audible, Dylan is audible, so we'll get started.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, by the way of introductions, Dylan is the founder of Hey Digital. They are a performance marketing agency. They work with around, I think, more than 50 plus companies now, like Hotjar, Pitch, Post Hog, and a lot others. He's also a co-owner of Post Drips. I think that's a LinkedIn content creation AI platform. So yeah, you guys really need to check out his LinkedIn. So yeah, it's quite happening out there. So thanks for joining me, Dylan. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited. I think this conversation will be good too because like you said, of course, we run a performance marketing agency working with SaaS companies and have done this for the last 5-6 years now. But I also, before all of the like marketing stuff, I was also, I started my career as like an SDR in sales roles. I've worked as an SDR at like large software companies and stuff like this too. So I feel like I'm actually pretty well positioned to talk about some of this like crossover between sales and marketing and like how we handle that, and also just how we approach sales ourselves at Hey Digital too. So yeah, I think this will be a good conversation.
Yeah, same pinch here. I also started off as an SDR. So yeah, before I move forward, I have a lot of questions for Dylan. I'm sure you also have a lot of questions. So how we are going to make this session is first we'll have a conversation, I and Dylan, and then feel free to put all your questions in the comment box. I'll take it towards the end. So yeah, let's get started then. So I'll just start with the premise of how did we come to this, right? So every buyer intent, or at least supposed buyer intent, is not a signal to reach out to your prospect, right? In most cases, they are just like trying to they're at the first phase of evaluation or awareness building, and they're not really ready to even evaluate. Forget about buying. So the post by Dylan was great, where he actually showed the account timeline that Factors has, where we see a bird eye view of all the accounts, and then you sort of infer that yeah, this account or this person is actually ready to buy. Now the question that I think everybody has, that how do we define and prioritize different types of buying signals? There is ebook downloads, there's website visit, there is demo request, then there is webinar registration in relation to their indicative strength of buyer intent.
Yeah. So from my, like the way I think about these things is sometimes slightly different to others. I don't know. But the first question I always ask myself when I'm thinking like, how should we classify something? Does something classify as buying intent? Does it not? Or even just how we think about marketing ourselves at Hey Digital. A lot of the time is I will always ask myself first, if I was in this position, but in this case, what does like buying intent look like for me personally, right? And I'll ask the same question to like people on my team, clients in some cases too. So for example, if I am in the market for, let's say, a sales intelligence software or a attribution reporting tool or just a reporting tool, anything like this, like if I'm in the market for software right now, if I'm completely honest with you and everyone watching this live right now or watching the recording of this, I know which company or maybe two or three companies I am considering before I even start researching and looking out or reaching out to them, right? I personally feel most people, if we're marketing to marketers or we're marketing to other people in the SaaS space or in the B2B space, of course not all the time, but I feel like 90% of the time, they have already made the decision about which provider or tool they wish to use before they start the sales conversations. I know that's not always the case, but I really think that is a lot of the time. And so I think about this first, and then I think to myself, and I would encourage you and anyone else to do the same thing, like if I am ever downloading a piece of content, let's say someone's done a cool giveaway on LinkedIn, like we do these ourselves. I comment on them sometimes when I see someone's giving away like a framework or some resources or something like that. Has there ever been a time where me downloading one of those things is an immediate trigger for, okay, I download it and then I want to buy the software or I want to buy something? Probably not, right? I don't think this ever happens. I think we're stuck a lot of the time as marketers having to report on metrics that unfortunately don't really matter too much, but the history of the way that we've done marketing in the past and what our execs or leadership team expects from us is those traditional like lead magnet download to MQL to SQL to opportunity to deal, etc. And a lot of people have been following this playbook of, okay, more leads in the front end, therefore more opportunities I'm going to have. So that's why they optimize for lead magnet downloads and things like this. So I get why it's happened, but just that's the first thing. It's like, ask yourself this: is that truly an intent signal? Really, it's not, right? But if I think about what could better intent signals be, personally, I feel, because we've been, not to make this suddenly like a promo for Factors, right? But we installed Factors. We've been using it ourselves on Hey Digital for the last like couple weeks now, like properly actively using it. And so myself and my team were going through the process of what is I don't even know if buying signal is the right term, but like an intent-led signal for us that, okay, this is a company that maybe we should connect with or reach out to. And so we've set up very obvious things like, okay, if someone's booked a demo, that's obviously like an intent-led signal, right? But that's going to happen anyway. Some of the other activities for us is, okay, we can categorize the types of companies visiting our page through using a tool like Factors, like you guys. We have a trigger that's set up right now for, okay, if there's anyone that matches our ICP, like matches our core persona, and we have a deal open for them, like right now in HubSpot, and they've then been active on our website, to us, that's like an intent signal, right? It doesn't necessarily mean they're ready and wanting to buy immediately, but this is a better signal that we can use as an excuse to like reconnect with someone, reach out to someone, etc. So really my answer to that is like an ebook download, a typical just a website visit, just like a website visit from your ICP isn't really an intent signal. We all view people's websites all the time. It doesn't mean we want to buy from them, right? So we can look deeper. I can share a bunch of other examples of like potential signals that we could look at, but I think that's like a practical one from our side. So yeah, really when I think about this, it's like just be honest with yourself. Forget about the previous like what we've been taught and ingrained in us from other roles or other marketing positions and think, okay, if you were buying or you'll know your ICP extremely well, you know what their behaviors are like, revisit how they've told you before they approach buying and use those as signals. And I can guarantee you it's never an ebook download. It's like, hey, I'm downloading an ebook, come and give me a call, I want to buy your software right now. This never happens, right?
Right, absolutely. I think it's a lot to, like you said, right? It's a lot to do with the metrics that have already been preconceived or preset for marketers to report on. So they have to
Right,
like give the leads to the sales. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, and that's where it's sort of a skewed way of looking at things. But the landscape has entirely changed because we have so many touch points as of today in the digital
right.
landscape, I would say that not one signal or even not 10 signals are enough until and unless it's a signal which is actually true, right?
Right.
So coming to the next question that I have is what criteria should be used to distinguish between a signal that merely indicates, interest, and what is that which signifies genuine intent to purchase?
Yeah. So I think this differs depending on the type of like, let's say SaaS, because I think most people watching this are probably going to be like in the SaaS space, right? Type of SaaS that you offer, are you a product-led growth company with a low average customer value, or are you like an enterprise business with long sales cycles and high ACVs? I think these two things, first of all, adjust how we think about those signals or those metrics. Because, for example, with our SaaS product, so you mentioned earlier on, like I also have a small SaaS product. It's something we're experimenting with right now called Post-Strips. It's a LinkedIn content creation tool. With this, it's very cheap. It's like $20 a month software. The buying signal for this, if I'm looking at website traffic and data that we have available, is probably going to be metrics like, okay, someone that has visited our pricing page, but then also looked at our certain feature pages and then maybe tested, we have like some template builders and things like that on the website, right? If they trigger, let's say, 2 of those 3 criteria and they haven't yet signed up, or they triggered that and they're currently in the trial process, like these kind of things, that to me is a buying signal for sure. Whereas if someone just visits our website and they're reviewing a blog post, which is Post-Strips versus one of the competitors, comparing the differences, yes, there's some, let's say, like intent there, and it's a signal that someone's interested, but it's not really a signal that they're like ready and wanting to buy immediately. People could argue both sides of that, but that's personally how I think about these things. But with something like, I'm just going to use Hey Digital as an example because this is like easy for me because this is what I do every single day. Like we are a service business. We sell performance marketing service to B2B SaaS, VPs of marketing, CMOs, etc. We have a pretty high ACV and pretty high like LTV values with our clients. Our process, if you think about monitoring like website traffic and different things like this, there's not really too much that we can say as a true buying signal, because our sales flow on the website is like they'll visit the site, they'll go to the book a call page, and they'll book a call. But that's still very usually exploratory, right? When people are booking those calls. Of course, some of those people are going to convert and go through the sales process and they'll want to buy. But on the front end, I don't think we can really say any of those are like buying intent signals. You could maybe argue demo being booked if you then look at, okay, someone's booked the demo or scheduled a call and they match all of our ICP criteria and they've been visiting our website a bunch over the last 6 months. That's maybe higher intent, should we say, than someone that's visited for the first time and booked a call. But I actually think there could be arguments to both sides of this. And so I think it depends on the business and the type of sales motion that you have. Really, I think a true, let's say, buying signal or buying intent signal, if you're a product-led growth company, this is when we need to start evaluating in-product metrics as well, right? Like usage metrics. So for example, with Factors, with you guys, maybe someone's like in the trial period and then they have set up like lots of different filters or segments and they've been using them every single day and there's 2 days left on their trial or something like that. That to me is much more of a buying intent signal than someone who signs up for your product, uses it once on the first day and then doesn't return for the next 7 to 10 days or something like this. So I do think it's product and company dependent. And I think a lot of this comes from just analyzing and thinking, how do our customers think and feel and what processes do they go through as well? So hopefully that answers the question a little bit.
Right. Yeah. How I take it is in how, how people, when they try to put in product market fit and they look at their stickiest customer,
Right.
like who sticks with them the most, right? And that
Right.
is their target audience. So similar pattern when you're selling or when you're a marketer, you see which is the company or account that sticks to you most, comes to you daily, looks at your page, uses your workflows, and then you make most of your sales effort goes towards that sticky account, which is most probably is going to buy from you.
Yeah.
So is
And I would
yeah.
say, like, if you're marketing in a SaaS company, you should know what those metrics and those moments are, right? Some people call them aha moments. Some people call them like light bulb moments, whatever that may be. This was a long time ago, but when I was, before I started Hey Digital, I was working internally at a SaaS company myself, a company called Leadfeeder, like a website intelligence tool. And there, it's like we knew back then, we had certain integrations with our product. We knew if somebody signed up and they integrated with like a very specific CRM system. We had a few different ones that we integrated with, of course, back then. But if they integrated with this specific CRM system, we knew that they were, I think it was even like 56% at the time, more likely to convert to a paying user than integrating with some of our other systems, because our integration was like so much deeper with that one specific one. So a lot of our efforts and energy was focused on trying to find more of those people and trying to promote them integrating that as early as possible into the onboarding process, right? So I think it's really important to identify these moments within the product and use these as your signals, rather than like someone's downloaded an ebook and visited our website 10 times in the last week, therefore they're ready to buy our solution, right? We can be much more intelligent with this kind of stuff. And I think, we're seeing so much more talk of this now, and this argument of like, what is intent, what isn't, what's demand gen, what's marketing, like all this kind of stuff, right? I think marketers, we love to talk about this kind of stuff, but it's nice to see some of us actually putting this into practice a little bit more now. And I think it's going to continue to be more important the more conversations we have around like efficiency of our marketing spends as well.
I totally understand this in the perspective of a PLG led company,
Yeah.
or a company which is done, has gone to a certain level and now can invest in several marketing techniques and then put their sales team into it.
Yeah.
However, I think I got this question while I was talking to a colleague, that can this sort of signal based selling be effectively implemented across different stages of SaaS company growth, right?
Yeah.
Or is it more suitable for Series A plus, or is it okay with early stage company as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I feel it can be implemented effectively with most stages. It just depends on like what's important to those people and where their area of focus is, right? So at Hey Digital, we're not a SaaS company, but we operate very much like a SaaS company. All of our clients are SaaS companies. The way that we work is very similar to SaaS businesses. So I use us as an example. It's like we are a sales and marketing function of three people. It's like me, one salesperson, and one marketer. And the marketer only joined us a month and a half ago. Manank, he's probably watching this. Ajay, my sales guy, he joined us in November. So for the last 5 years, it was just me, like a team of one, right? And so it depends on how much time and resource your team has available and what your goals are and what's important to you. Because I truly believe, as a team of like one or two marketers or salespeople, this kind of data that you can have available to you and selling and marketing off the back of true intent-based triggers is actually way more effective than the more like typical way of marketing and sales that we've been doing in the past. Of course, there are areas where they need to cross over and we combine both of these approaches. But if I was a marketing team of one at like a seed stage or a Series A stage startup, like I was previously, that means that you have to be as efficient and effective with your time as possible. And usually that comes from, okay, what activities can I do that are going to generate the most pipeline for us ultimately, right? And so if I could work really hard on building out a fantastic lead magnet, ebook, webinar series, whatever, promoting it to a bunch of our ICP, and then like they download it, some of them watch it, like, yes, this is great for growing and building brand. And in some cases, some of those people will potentially at a later stage convert to customers. But if you then ignore what you have already available to you, you're missing out on like the warmest possible leads, really. So if you're doing any cold outbound, you have an SDR doing this or a salesperson doing cold calls, sending cold emails, etc., why not take them away from that? Like take half an hour of their time or 1 hour of their time each day away from this and get them going through your website data, your product data, using something like Factors to actually reach out to companies that have already shown some level of engagement with you. Let's call it that. Like you can go and see, okay, let's look at a list of companies that match our ICP that have been on our website and have been hit with our LinkedIn ad. So we know they've viewed a LinkedIn ad multiple times, maybe they've been on our site. This to me is much easier job for a salesperson to go and initiate a conversation with that company or with that person. And so I think it can be replicated even for very small early stage companies. And I think they should be doing this. As we start to scale, like let's say we're Series B, Series C, we have large sales teams, different models like this, like it's essential to be doing this, right? It's like, why would you not be doing this? Because you want to give your team as much ammunition and like data as possible to do the best job that they can. So if you're like ignoring this information, you're sitting on wasted data. Like all of the efforts your team or your marketing team have taken to drive people to the site or to build that brand or to be running your ads, why would you leave it to the ads and to the brand building and everything else if you can supplement that with additional initiatives? So I think it's a balance. It depends on how much time you have, what your goals are, but I think everyone should be looking to explore this to some level anyway, because you're probably wasting your time chasing signals that aren't really signals. So just take that time and focus it in another area. That's what I would say.
The reason I ask this is because what usually happens in early stage companies is that since we are trying to sell
Yeah.
a lot more, the thing is we do the same mistake that we talked about in the beginning, right? Like every activity is wherever they give you their email, you sort of go and reach out to them, right?
Right.
That's exactly what happens in early stage companies because they want to do the selling, right? Like whatever signal is there, we are just going to reach out and
Right.
we'll try to sell. So that's the reason I actually asked the question.
I
Yeah.
think we can still do that, but approach it differently. Like, let's say you're a small early stage company. Maybe you're not having hundreds and thousands of leads visiting the website like every day or every week. You can still reach out to all of those that do, but maybe don't take the angle of like trying to sell
Sales.
to them immediately, right? Maybe start with just trying to have a conversation or build a relationship. Like we're even testing this ourselves right now. Of just yesterday or 2 days ago, we had a company that we could see had seen some of our LinkedIn ads multiple times over the last few days. They'd been on our website like 4 or 5 times. They'd been on our schedule a call page, and they didn't book a call. So we found the marketing lead at this company, and I just sent him a message on LinkedIn, and I'm like pretty forthcoming with this kind of stuff. I wasn't too, let's say, salesy with it. I sent him the screenshot from our factors dashboard and said like, hey, is there anything I can do to help you? Because normally if that happens, someone just has questions. They don't want to get on a call yet. They want the questions answered first, right? So he came back, he had like 2 very simple questions. We answered them, and now we have a call booked. Whereas if I'd like reached out to him and been like, hey, let's book a call, probably wouldn't have had the same level of impact. So you can still do this like one-to-one outreach if you're small and early stage. Just be more intelligent with it. Like think about what kind of message would you like to receive if you'd been on the company's website all these times and hit these triggers, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a lot to do with building a relationship than to just, get that contract, right?
Right.
Yeah, in any business, that is something that people should aspire to, and that relationship will later on convert to a contract if things go well. So,
Exactly.
yeah, that's a great point. Before I go into the next segment, I just want to make one point. If you all have any questions, put it in the comments. I'll definitely take it towards the end. So yeah, now I just want to dig a little bit more into LinkedIn as a
Sure.
channel. So why LinkedIn? Because a lot of B2B companies, like I think it is the biggest site for B2B companies to advertise, irrespective of their company size. They use LinkedIn for ABM ads, organic content, and LinkedIn as a channel uniquely supports the ability to target specific B2B audiences and accounts with wide range of ad formats. They also have a quite decent ad campaign manager. But what I have seen is there are like a few limitations that does not help a marketer go beyond just running ads. Like you have to do optimization, then you have to report and all of that. What do you have noticed when you are working with these 50-60 companies? Yeah.
Yeah. So every SaaS company that I've ever interacted with wants to explore running ads on LinkedIn as a channel, given the nature of this platform, who spends time here, how we use it, etc. But unfortunately, it doesn't and hasn't worked as successfully as a lot of people would like for every single company. Just because it's a B2B like network, we all spend time here, it doesn't mean it's going to be perfect. LinkedIn is great. I am so grateful for LinkedIn, both personally, professionally. It's a platform we use all the time. We spend a lot of money here on advertising for our clients as well. But there is definitely a lot of work that needs to be done on like improvements in some cases within the ads platform itself. I think there are a few specific things that just you can't do on LinkedIn right now that you should be able to do, that you've been able to do on other advertising platforms for years. So I think like I wouldn't actually say ads can work on LinkedIn for every single SaaS company. Maybe first I'll just cover a few things to consider when you're thinking about running ads on LinkedIn as a platform, because I don't want to put too many like huge wide blanket statements out there, but I would say that for like product-led growth SaaS companies with a low average customer value, we haven't really seen LinkedIn as a platform work that well when it comes to impact on signups, conversions, etc., within the expected or costs that are required. Like if you have a SaaS product that's $15, $20 a month or something like this, I think it's very difficult to scale ads on LinkedIn, for example. So there's things like this to consider. There's also like industry focus and ICP focus to consider too. Like, are your ICP actually on LinkedIn? Are they spending time here, etc.? But for most companies, it can be a very important channel. But the way that we approach it and think about it, I think even now has to be done slightly differently to the way most people are. I think the way most SaaS marketers are considering and thinking about running LinkedIn ads is very broken still. I would recommend a lot of people here check out content from people like Justin. I think you've had him on live talks maybe before, Justin Rowe, right? Of course, a lot of people watching this one know Chris Walker and like the Refined Labs team. We're trying to put out content about like running LinkedIn ads and stuff like this too. I think the biggest challenge and mistake that people make is like running LinkedIn ads and expecting to see an immediate return on pipeline metrics and demos being booked, SQLs created, opportunities created, etc. And the reason I say that is the way that you would report and get data from LinkedIn is not great for this really. If we think about it, if you think about the typical user journey, people will see your ads on LinkedIn, they'll see them fairly frequently. The chances of someone like clicking on that ad, going through to your website, booking a call immediately, like going through the call process, qualifying, being assigned as a sales accepted lead or something like this, is very unlikely that that all happens in one flow. And therefore, when you look at like LinkedIn ads reporting or your Google Analytics, a lot of the time it's going to tell you that your spend on LinkedIn isn't actually having that big of an impact on your pipeline, right? And so we've seen a lot of SaaS companies cut LinkedIn ads or reduce their spend on LinkedIn ads because they're not able to trust or show the impact that it's having. So the first thing I would say is if you're spending on LinkedIn and if you're considering like ramping up your spends on LinkedIn a little bit, you really should consider and look at a tool to help you with deeper reporting, whether that's something like Factors, whether it's something like Dream Data, Hockey Stack, whatever. Because with these tools, not saying that it suddenly changes everything, but you can have a better understanding of the impact that your ads are having. Like for example, us at Hey Digital right now, we're running some thought leader ads. We started running them last week. We're targeting a very specific list of companies. We're running thought leader ads to these companies. If I go into our LinkedIn ads report right now, I can tell you for sure, it says that these ads have had like no impact whatsoever in terms of calls being booked, whatever else. If I go into some of our other like dashboarding tools, I can see like a lot of the companies that we're going after have seen our ads like multiple times, have visited our website. So I know, and I can then, I don't have anyone to report back to. It's like reporting back to myself, right? But if I did have someone to report back to, I can say, hey, look, this is the impact that we're having so far. And I know with a lot of the companies we work with, what they'll see in LinkedIn versus what they'll see in a deeper reporting tool. If we actually go and look at, okay, what's the impact that ads are having from a view through conversion perspective, like have our target companies seen the ads and then have they interacted with our site, have they booked calls? Normally you might even see an uplift of like 2-3x on your performance from pipeline generated. Nothing's changed, it's just the way you look at the data has changed. So then you can go from thinking about cutting the spend to actually increasing the spend, right? So these are a few things. But to answer your question really specifically about like potential challenges with LinkedIn, I think there are maybe like 2 or 3 core areas that are actually very simple, or in my opinion, simple to fix, that haven't been fixed yet, that marketers should be thinking about. One is like the way that you do targeting on LinkedIn. I've done a couple of LinkedIn posts myself about this, and maybe we can send them out after this recording or whatever, about considering the structure of how you're doing targeting with like job title targeting versus seniority targeting, even like list-based targeting for company lists versus individual lists and different things like this. A lot of people don't take the care or attention that's required within targeting. The way that LinkedIn groups some things together is an absolute pain. I think you guys even have a blog post about this too on your site, where if you look at targeting based on functions rather than job titles, if you were to put like senior exec or manager or something like this and marketing, in theory that should only trigger for like VPs of marketing, CMOs, different things like this, but actually that could trigger for marketing specialists, for example. So a lot of companies might be running ads that they think are targeting really senior roles, but actually are targeting a broad like breadth of different roles across the space. So LinkedIn targeting, although it's great in terms of like how specific we can get, at the same time it's actually not that great, because even let's say you're working with us as an agency or any other agency, you might be like, hey, we're only running our ads to VPs of marketing or CMOs. Why do I see in the insights report that a marketing specialist has seen the ad? Like, we just can't have any control over that in a lot of cases. So this is one problem for sure. I'm sure they're working on like making this better. I don't know. There's this. Then there's like actually one or two super basic things I don't know why they haven't fixed yet. So one is ad like scheduling. I know a few people are building tools and have built tools to help with this, but the only ad scheduling in LinkedIn right now is setting like a start date and an end date and like budget caps, right? But if we think about how we're using LinkedIn, it would be super helpful to have scheduling based on times. So maybe you look at your data and you see that very rarely are you having calls being booked over weekends or things like this, or very rarely are you having calls being booked super early in the morning or whatever else. Being able to adjust when the ads are spending based on times would be really great. And yeah, I hope someone is like doing something with this. There are a few options available. And then the last one, and I think this is, to be honest, the biggest one, because most people watching this will be running ABM campaigns. They'll be focusing on helping their sales team have coverage over key accounts, etc. The first step, of course, is like you build a great list, you upload the list to LinkedIn. You can build the list in LinkedIn as well if you want to, but like, let's say you've built a list, you've uploaded it to LinkedIn, you have all of your target companies, you have spent a load of time building out an advertising strategy, you've got great creatives, you've got some thought leader ads, everything like this. You turn the campaigns on, you come back and you look at the demographic reporting like a week later, and you might find that, let's say you have a list of 1,000 companies, right, that you're going after. You might find that of those 1,000 companies, 70 to 80% of the budget might have been spent on 5 to 10% of the companies. This is definitely a challenge that I think a lot of people don't consider when they're running like ABM focused campaigns. The budget, you don't really have control over where the budget is allocated, or being able to, let's call it like frequency capping or anything like this. And that's hard to solve at the moment, outside of like then taking those bigger companies or the companies that are taking up more of the spend, taking them out of the list, maybe giving them their own dedicated campaign, or like taking them out and then adding them back in later, which isn't ideal either. So those are like maybe 3 things I would say are important to think about when you're running campaigns like this, that you don't unfortunately have that much control over right now. And I think a lot of people don't realize that or don't know that. They'll just look at their LinkedIn ads report and be like, why are we doing this, or why are we doing this, when actually we don't have control over that, unfortunately.
Right, right. Yeah, I think these 3 points bang on. I've heard this from a lot of people. I mean, a lot of marketers who have used LinkedIn ads or run LinkedIn ads for 50, 60 companies itself. Usually, like how Kajal has mentioned it on the comments. I love my comment section, by the way. Yeah, thank you everyone for commenting. So yeah, nobody really clicks on an ad on LinkedIn. It's not Google Ads. Like you
Right,
just spend and everybody like goes and buys your product. No, it doesn't happen
right.
that way. So that's why shameless plug factors can actually show you who are the companies who are looking at your ads in on what frequency. So yeah, you can sign up for a free trial. So yeah, that was
Yeah,
a
I actually, maybe one thing I would add to that too is like, for anyone that is running like LinkedIn ads campaigns right now with a target account focus or anything like this, and you have a small sales team in place or anything like that, like you said, shameless plug, not to like push too hard, but I really would recommend even just trying something like Factors, because for example, like for us right now, Prank, I didn't message you this before the call because I wanted to share it with the team afterwards, but like we set up, I think it was a week ago now, to like actually start using it, right? And we just had our first call booked as a result of like doing some proactive outreach off the back of Factors like data that we've seen. And so we've built reports for our like LinkedIn ads, for example. Like I've been running thought leader ads just for this last, I think it's 4 days now. And I have a report in Factors. I see very easily like, okay, I have one that just shows me all of the companies that have been like interacting or have seen our LinkedIn ads. But then I also have another filter built where it's all of the companies that have seen the LinkedIn ads and then also been active on our website. It's a pretty small list right now, but it's like this is an immediate real, that to me is like, I don't want to say it's a buying signal, but it's a good signal that myself and my sales guy Ajay can use as like a conversation starter, right? Or knowing that what we're doing is like working to some degree. And I think if you weren't doing that or didn't have tools like that, of course you can go into LinkedIn, you can pull a demographic based report or whatever and see like, okay, some of the companies that have seen your ads, but if the interaction metrics are too small, LinkedIn won't report back on them is one thing, but also like you then don't see what happens next, right? So I think this is for anyone running any decent level of budget on LinkedIn ads, if you're not doing that, actually investing in some tooling like Factors or something else is in the long run probably going to be more beneficial for you because of the deals that you can close that you might have not even known existed otherwise. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that if anyone's running LinkedIn ads at any kind of scale.
Yeah. Oh, I love Factors Plug. Thanks. Thanks for the
Yeah,
thanks. I mean, I'm glad that it gets, material gains for companies. So yeah, now I'll again shift to, signals and all of that. We have a
yeah,
few questions from people on LinkedIn. So what metrics and benchmarks should we use to evaluate the success and impact of signal based selling initiatives compared to traditional approaches, right? Like we discussed, that in traditional approach a marketer would give, oh, this campaign got these many leads, take
yeah.
sales, take it and put it in your sequence or whatever. But how does that metric change when we shift to signal based approach?
Yeah, I'm gonna try not to be a bad guest. Like, I want to kind of flip that question to you in a second as well, and see like what if you have any learnings from your client base or customer base with this. For me, the thing that I think about is like I don't want to call it the old model, but let's call it like the current model of okay, lead magnet downloads to MQL to SQL to opportunity, whatever. It's focused on volume ultimately, right? And so companies are just looking at their end goal is always pipeline generation or revenue closed. And if you're following that older or current model, the approach is normally all we care about is volume on the front end and costs on the front end. And then in theory, that should create revenue or opportunities. And so they're focusing too much on the costs on the front end or the front end metrics. I think, in my opinion, when you shift to this signal-based approach, or it doesn't even have to be a shift, it's like when you start introducing some of this, I think the metrics that matter actually become more like deeper conversion rates rather than volume metrics, right? So it's like if you're I actually don't know a great answer to the question. I'm just trying to think of like for me and my team at Hey Digital, my like small growth team, we call ourselves, our sales and marketing team. It's like we don't even look at, if I'm honest, I don't even care the cost on our LinkedIn ads right now of like, I'm not looking at the cost for 1,000 impressions. I'm not looking at the total spend. I'm not looking at the cost per click or anything like this. I'm just looking at, okay, when I'm looking through my reports, are the right kind of companies like seeing the ads, interacting with the ads, and are we bringing people through to the website from those ads, or are we seeing other like engagement metrics from those ads? So for me, I'm just going straight to like looking at the deeper metrics almost. For companies with a lot more volume than us though, it's probably looking at like conversion rates, right? From instead of just what's the cost per lead and then what's the cost per opportunity, maybe you start looking at, okay, what's our conversion rate from MQL to sales accepted lead or something like this. Because I can almost guarantee if you start with a bit more of an approach like we're talking about, the rate at which a lead then converts to like an accepted lead by the sales team is probably going to increase pretty drastically. Because we all know if you're sending your sales team a bunch of ebook downloads, the percentage of those converting to demos and opportunities is often very low. Yes, they're like hungry and they want a lot of leads, but if you send them 100 leads and only one of them converts, they're also going to be upset, right? Maybe if you start sending them 5 leads instead, but 4 out of those 5 end up becoming opportunities, then you know that the approach is working. So I think it's a shift to like down funnel metrics a bit more and potentially looking at conversion rates. But I don't know, what do you think? Because you actually, I would imagine, have
Yeah.
more experience with this kind of stuff than me.
Yeah, I think in like our experience with I mean, I don't directly work with clients or customers, but what
Yeah.
I have heard is that you see if your targeting and your optimization is good enough, right? When I say targeting and optimization, is that are you targeting the right people on whoever you're running ads on, right? The is it your ICP who's seeing your ads, or is it like totally somebody else and you
Right.
it's just like not working out? uh, and once that happens, you go on optimizing for spends and then leads and all of that. Typically for I would like say categorically, sorry, for LinkedIn itself, the key here is patience. And
Yeah.
it's not like LinkedIn ads that you directly like get leads and all of that. But like you said, this is what we have also seen across companies, and that's what we suggest as well, is to see if your targeting is right and are you optimizing it. Then again, like categorically, if I talk about LinkedIn, the two things that you mentioned, right? Frequency capping and scheduling. So if you do frequency capping, your budget is now moving towards a wider audience and a wider set of companies. And if you do scheduling well, now you can optimize on your spends, right? You can stop your campaigns when it's like late at night or early morning, and then you start it when it's like afternoon, when people are on LinkedIn and all of that. So
Yeah.
these two things is something that we have also observed. Yeah.
Something I would also love to just highlight. I know I don't know how many people are watching this right now or are going to watch it afterwards or anything like this, but we had a comment earlier, right, about someone said no one even clicks on LinkedIn ads or something like this, right? I know if we were to ask if we ask a room full of marketers at SaaS companies, hey, how often do you click on LinkedIn ads? A lot of them are probably going to say not very often, right?
Yeah.
But we're all trying to report on the ads performance as though everyone clicks on those ads. And I just don't understand this. Like, why? Why do we do this? Why, if we all know that this doesn't happen, why are we reporting in this way and then basing the success or failures of our initiatives on
Mm.
these metrics? Because we're basically admitting to ourselves that it's broken, but we're using that to make decisions. And that has always confused me a lot, which is why I think this approach that we're talking about a little bit is like, this is how you, yes, you understand that, okay, people aren't necessarily clicking on the ads, but we can see the impact that the ads are having through views and then through further activity on the website. We're not then saying that therefore the only reason these people are converting is because of the ads, but that's fine because we're marketers. Like everything has to work together. Like we have to stop thinking about paid channels as like, you spend this, you get this in return, and this is the only reason why. It's like paid works better when we're collaborating across our different efforts and channels. Like companies that are doing great content, great sessions like this, I can guarantee they're going to have better performance when they're running like thought leader ads and stuff like this on LinkedIn, right? So it's just, I've always found that very weird as to why as marketers, we all know that, we all talk about it, we all say it, but still when we go and do our reports or we show it to our exec team or whatever, we don't do it. It's very odd. I don't really understand this.
Yeah, I think all of us agree to that we say something else, but our preconceived notions are totally different. Since we are on LinkedIn, I think Praveen asked this on your comment section. It would be great if you could cover how do you help customers deliver better experiences on LinkedIn based signals. For example, if you're able to understand a set of prospects that are interested in a specific aspect of your product, would you create a LinkedIn campaign only for that signal or aggregate that into a catch all campaign? On the sales side, using these signals in conversations is quite obvious, but
Yeah.
however, how is a marketing team supposed to make it more personalized or signal driven?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I'm not sure if I have a great answer, but I'll try my best because like from the sales side, it's obvious, like you say, right? From the marketing side, an ideal scenario, of course, is going to be like, let's say we have, I don't know what the category could be, but let's say we have a list of companies that we know have interacted with our website or our ads. They've all shown an interest in one very specific area of the product or something like this. The ideal scenario, of course, would then be, okay, we run ads to those people with more depth about that section of the product, with more like social proof around this, case studies around this, just more like we make sure that our ad creatives and copy is related to that. Of course, that's the ideal world, but actually putting that into practice is extremely difficult in most cases because of the size of that audience as well, right? So it's like if that audience is only 20 companies or something like this running ads specifically to them about this specific subset of the product with fresh creators for this, and actually just the process of running those ads, it might not even work. It might not even be possible in LinkedIn depending on audience sizes and everything else. So of course that would be an ideal approach, but I actually don't know in practicality how straightforward that is. So I think when we're considering like wider, or when we're considering buckets like this, we probably need to go a bit wider. Maybe one angle though could be, okay, from this data that you now have more access and oversight to, if you're seeing maybe that, okay, let's say you're running a more general angle with your ads. It's like something general about factors and we're serving it to your ICP or whatever. If we're then seeing that a lot of the traffic is then very clearly going and exploring a certain area of the product, let's say it's the, I don't know, the certain integrations or whatever else, maybe we can take that information to help us in future ads of, hey, why don't we try and run a few more creative and copy angles around these areas of the product. I think that's probably the way to go rather than like, okay, we have this segment, we then serve them ads specifically about this, because I think in practicality, running that is actually pretty challenging unless you have very significant volume, but I think most of the people watching this probably don't have enough volume to have like practical campaigns like that working. You can think about like segmenting, for example, retargeting campaigns or different things like this, or even, we haven't set this up yet, but something that we're going to experiment with too is like using factors to, from some of the filters and segments that we've built, constantly pushing new companies into our audience list for targeting in LinkedIn. Like, yeah, I think this kind of stuff would be useful. So yeah, maybe those two angles is a way that we can think about it more from a ideation perspective of like, okay, if we're seeing this in the data, maybe we should try more of this in our campaigns. Because I think most companies don't look at that, right? They just look at, okay, we're running the ads, we've spent this much, we've had this many signups, we need to improve the cost per sign up, so let's test some new creative. But actually what we can do is like, we've spent this much, we've seen this much traffic, we've noticed on behavioral that a lot of them are looking at this, so how about the next 3 angles that we run are based on these learnings? I think that's probably a better approach to take.
Right. Got it. Understood. So I think this is quite a clear answer to the question. I have one question right out of the blue, which I ask to every person who is running LinkedIn ads. So, what do you think about combining, organic efforts along with paid efforts, right?
Yep.
Like you said, whoever does organic better on LinkedIn has more chances to do paid a lot better.
Yep.
But what has been your observation along with companies, and if you can quantify a little bit more? Yeah.
Yep. So I think my direct and immediate answer would be like, if you're running ads on LinkedIn, you should also be running like good quality organic content on LinkedIn too. But it's not as easy as that, right? And when I say good quality organic content, I'm always thinking about from the perspective of either founders, execs, or people on your team, like posting on their personal channels and
Employee.
profiles. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Not from the, when I say organic, I don't mean like your company pages, LinkedIn posts. Like, of course, those are important too, but I think it is different. So the ideal world and scenario is like companies running ads on LinkedIn are also building out an employee advocacy program. They're helping their team, they're training them, they're giving opportunities for them to be actively posting on LinkedIn, etc. Or they have their CEO, their founder, a marketing person, someone that's active. In those cases, I think it's always going to help for sure. I think we're going to see even more this year, even bigger shift and focus on, like, I don't know if we want to call it B2B influencer marketing or what we call it, but with the thought leader ads that launched at the end of last year, with a lot more companies doing partnerships with people on LinkedIn, like influencer partnerships, I think this angle of advertising is going to continue to grow. And I think if you're a SaaS company and you have a product that's like mid to high ACV values, and one of your founding team or one of your marketing team isn't active on LinkedIn, I think a little bit of a cheat code really can be to first of all build out their profile, get them posting consistently and actively, and then be running thought leader ads from their profiles. So the quick answer is like yes, organic content will help, but I know it's not as simple as that. Getting your team on board, getting them posting consistently, everything like this is a whole job in itself. In terms of like quantifying the impact of that, I'm actually not sure if I can share too much on that right now, because like we've just started launching our thought leader ads for Hey Digital like a week ago, a couple weeks ago. We have a few other clients running thought leader ads as well, but maybe we can like revisit a conversation around this in another couple months, and I can share some like actual numbers and data, or I can go and do some research after the call and see if I can pull anything out. But I would also suggest anyone watching this, a couple companies that are running this playbook very well right now. Clay. I think a lot of people have probably been seeing content around Clay, which is like I don't just want to call it a emailing platform because that's not fair at all. It's like lead enrichment, email sending, like a bunch of things. Something they've been doing very well is thought leader ads, where they're partnering with a bunch of people who use Clay in their day to day. And I'm seeing so many posts of like some cool stuff that someone's done with Clay. They've posted organically on their profile. It has quite a lot of engagement, and then Clay are running those as thought leader ads. This is such a great organic way to promote your product because it's like actual users showing use cases and talking about it. I haven't spoken to the team, I don't know them, but I can almost guarantee those ads are crushing it for Clay. Like I'm so confident of that too. So I would definitely check out their ads library on LinkedIn and you'll see a bunch of those. And then you can look at what we're doing. You can look at Justin Rowe, I think his name is, from the LinkedIn ads agency, and there'll be a bunch of others too. But yeah, like organic will benefit and help the ads performance
I think,
for sure.
I think you are the fourth or the fifth person to talk about Clay on my live.
Nice. Okay.
I need to get someone from Clay to talk about all of the things that they're doing: marketing, product,
Yeah.
RevOps, all of that. So yeah, Clay is on my list next.
Yeah.
So I think that was a great question. Sorry, great answer. Yeah, great question, great answer. Now I have like one question that I think Jeff had asked on your post, that how do you think automation can help in better identifying and prioritizing buying signals?
Yeah, I was trying to, because I saw him comment that maybe a few hours ago, and I was trying to think about the best way to answer that, because I'm not sure if I even like fully understand the question by what he means there. Maybe like not to get super nerdy and technical about this kind of stuff. And again, I don't want to just turn this into like a Factors promo video for you, right? But like one thing we haven't done yet, but we are thinking about doing. We just wanted the basic setup first, and I think this is possible with Factors. I'm pretty sure when I did the demo with your team like last week, I think this is possible. So we've created our like saved, I don't know if you call them filters, segments, whatever, but we've created these. And right now we push alerts to a Slack channel. So this is like some level of automation for sure, but we push alerts to a Slack channel of our highest priority events so that my sales guy and myself, we can see these in like and react to them pretty quickly. I think so this is automation, but I think the next step, which I believe is possible because you have webhooks, right? I think the next step is like we use Clay ourselves for all of our emailing that we're doing, and we have some pretty intensive like tables that we've built in Clay for enriching leads, providing contacts for us, but then also emailing workflows. Like we're sending some outbound emails that are written 100% with AI that people respond to us saying like these email, like this is the best cold email I've ever had. Like they think it's 100% like manually written. Like we've spent a bunch of time on this. I think the next step would be using webhooks to push this information to Clay or another tool, run the companies through our like enrichment processes, and not automatically send emails, but like have Clay help us automatically write some angles for emails, then send it back to us in Slack. We then review in Slack, like, okay, is this email okay? What do we need to manually change? Because I don't think you should fully rely on AI for this kind of stuff, but you can get it to do a lot of the heavy lifting. I think that's something that we'll probably explore in the coming weeks. And yeah, that's a pretty intensive like automation, I guess, if you view it this way. So I think you can be starting to use signals like this, but this is easier for us to do, like a small team of a couple people. I think rolling something like that out at a company that has maybe 10, 20, 50 sales reps is going to be much harder, of course, so I'm aware of that. But I think those are the only kind of levels of like, let's say, automation that I'm considering with this kind of approach at the moment. Yeah.
Yeah, understood. Yeah, Cool. I think that's the questions that I had in my bucket.
Nice.
Yeah, if there are more questions, definitely do put it on the comments. I'll take it. Martha has a question for me. How are you going to report on the success of this live webinar? But yeah, direct visit to the website will be no attribution at all. That's absolutely right. Like there'll be no attribution if you go directly, but it'll be direct traffic. The way we measure lives, and this is I mean we call it lives. We do a webinar program totally differently on Zoom. So this live is only for, like, top of the funnel content. We very specifically know that this is not going to be direct attribution, but sort of a brand awareness marketing activity. This is, so our metrics are totally different to measure this. But if you go and fill in a demo request, there is a drop down where we ask, where did you got to know us from? And if you write that you got to know us from LinkedIn, then that will be attributed to, that sort of top of the funnel content. So yeah, that is like my answer to your question. um, Vishwas has asked, "What is your GTM strategy for Hey Digital?" This is a big, big
Yeah.
answer, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I can take it partially for sure. I also I think he'll be watching right now. I'm nearly 100% confident of it. Manank, my marketing manager, like he will most likely reply to that comment either right now or like when the live is finished too. But from a very high level, like we've been building Hey Digital for about 6 years now, and all of our like growth has been fully. I don't want to say fully. I'll explain this in a second, but like nearly 99% organic as a result of me personally posting on LinkedIn like once every few days. And honestly, that's been like near enough it. At the very beginning, I did a podcast, I did some interview sessions, whatever. But truly, like my personal LinkedIn profile has been a huge driver of business for us. It got us to like 2 million in ARR without having a marketing person, a marketing team, a salesperson, anything. And like I had support from a copywriter on my team, Kushbu, she's incredible. But a lot of this was like very, very ad hoc, right? So we got to that point. Now what we're doing, our like, if you want to call it GTM strategy, is like just really doubling down on what is working very well for us already. So that's my own personal LinkedIn. If anyone watching this has been following me for a while, I've always been fairly consistent, but now we've like really ramped up the volume of content as well as the quality of the content. So this is one thing. We've built a system for this, but we've been doing a lot of training internally with our team. We're 3 weeks into a program right now. We did like an open invite. If our team wanted to join, they could. We thought we would have like 5 people, but we had 20 people join this thing. We're doing like training on LinkedIn, personal branding, employee advocacy, if you want to call it like this. So we're putting focused efforts into, if our team want to, helping them and supporting them become more active on LinkedIn, kind of like what you and the team at Factors have done. So people will start to see more Hey Digital team members consistently posting on LinkedIn too. We're focusing a lot of our energy here because my ICP is like super active on LinkedIn. We're selling to CMOs, VPs of marketing at funded SaaS companies, right? So this is like the core focus for us. And then outside of that, we've identified like 2 or 3 other areas where we're spending a little bit of time. Of course, we're ramping that up with LinkedIn thought leader ads and LinkedIn advertising efforts too, like I've mentioned. But then the other focus for us is like some deep partnerships with companies that are very closely aligned to supporting our clients and aligned with our clients too. So that's why you're seeing like me do content like this with you, and we're going deeper into our relationship with Factors. The same with Dream Data from a revenue attribution side. Like we've partnered with like 2 or 3 companies now, so we're going to expand there a little bit. And then finally, off the back of this too, we're like exploring a couple of event-based initiatives as well. But truly, I would say like 75% to 80% of our focus is like just doubling down on what has been working already. And then of course we have smaller activities too, like we run some Google ads ourselves, like we're a paid ads agency, we have to do this kind of stuff. But really it was just a case of, okay, what has worked well for us? Where do our ICP spend time? And let's just put a lot more concerted energy into that. It's very simple at the crux of it. I think too many people like overcomplicate their GTM strategy. I don't even know, like I think GTM strategy and approach is also just like another like word to cover up something, kind of like this demand creation thing. It's like just marketers being marketers, right?
Yeah.
Just
It
don't
works.
overcomplicate these things. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Totally, totally. I think that's about it. I have no more questions on the comment, but this has been a great session. We've been talking for more than an hour. There were 70, 80 people at a point, even 85 people listening to us live.
Nice.
So thank you everyone who tuned in. And moreover, I would like to thank Dylan for coming on this live. Such an insightful session. I think I got to learn a lot, which I'm going to go and talk with my growth team at Factors. So a lot of insights, a lot of things about LinkedIn ads, signals, buying intent. We need to do a part two of this. I'm not satisfied.
Yeah, I would love to. Thank you so much for having me and everyone who watched this as well. Feel free to just connect with me on LinkedIn. It would be great to chat with some of you there as well. But yeah, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. All of you can find the recording on YouTube, Factors YouTube channel. But I'll also post snippets. I'll link to the YouTube recording. I'll also link to LinkedIn Live's own recording. So thank you everyone again for joining in, and see you. Have a good evening. Yeah, I think.